Making your way through work Monday takes everything you got. Then Monday night rolls around and you realize there's a shot. You're only 10 points away. All those times when your team had no fight, they're just so gosh darn frail. Then your star quarterback let another deep ball sail, and your third round pick bet on his team. Then go check out our strength where everybody knows your pain, and they listen to complaints. You wanna be where you can see our bodies bring you no shame. You wanna go where everybody knows your pain.
Welcome back to Dad Bod Fantasy Squad. I got the nod of approval from Robbie Bobby today.
You were on time with that one.
I've been working on it because it gets laggy at the end. I know I mentioned it in a previous episode. It gets laggy in the end, so I really kind of have to guess. But I've been working on trying to cut it a little bit closer. We have a special guest to you, friend of the podcast, friend of the show, Robbie. Robbie's frozen again. Rob Norton. So, Rob, before we say hello, just for everybody that's listening out there, maybe not watching, Robbie, my co-host, is going to be Robbie for today's episode, even though I usually call him that anyways. And Rob Norton is going to be Rob. Rob, how are you, man?
I'm doing great. How you guys doing?
Doing well. I was telling them before this episode, I've been watching my brother's dog and waking me up at 6:45, which is way before my morning ritual for me. So I'm struggling a little bit. Robbie, how about yourself?
I'm doing good, man. Got in some golf this morning, a little dad bod activity, so it was solid.
What the heck?
That's about it for I went out to this new pizza place that me and my girlfriend went to, and it was delicious.
What's it called?
Vero. It's in Cleveland Heights. It's good. It's kind of by Little Italy in that area. It's on the hill over there. It's fantastic. I highly recommend it. Other than that, it's been kind of an easy day. Got some work in, and that's about it. Mario, how's the dog situation? I know you had some troubles in the morning, but
in the morning, love her. She's a freaking blast. Our house isn't big enough for a second dog, but it's fun to kind of borrow a second dog. Rob, do you golf? You golf? What's the sitch there?
So I did for a while, and I was getting better. I was shooting well for a while, and I'm a super competitive dude. So I was just getting better, and then I tore my knee up playing basketball. So then I was out for a whole entire summer. I came back the following year, and I went from shooting bogey golf or better pretty much every single time out. So I was shooting double bogey or worse every time out, and I got to a point, and dude, I was with a couple of my buddies. They're a couple of them are real good, right? So we're out there, and I was getting so frustrated, and I just got on 18, and I hit one just way off, and I just sat back in the cart. I'm retired. I'm retired. And I've only played one round since. That was 2018 maybe. Yeah. And I've played one round since, and I think it was my buddy's the day of his wedding, and I was in his wedding, so we played. But since then I haven't played. I've been getting the itch though. We were playing some Top Golf a couple times, and I was stroking it pretty well. So I was all right. I was I think I got to get back into this.
Don't call it a comeback.
Yeah, it's a fun sport, man. I think maybe coming from I consider myself pretty unathletic, so I was always competitive, but knowing what I was going to bring to the table. And so being at golf, I still suck, but I have fun. And I drink.
See, that's when I first got into it because like my dad loved it and all my buddies loved it and stuff. And so like I just got out there and it was like a nice time to just relax, have a good time. I wasn't worried about like doing well, just drinking, having fun, not worrying about like everything else. And then, then I started like getting better and better slowly. So then now I was like had this expectation for myself. Yeah, and then now I'm like competing with myself. And there was another guy, him and I were like similar level. And I started getting better than him like regularly. And then I came back and he was just destroying me, let me hear it every time. And I was just like, man, I can't do this anymore. I'm too competitive. I was like, this is enough.
Yeah. So I think that happens too. Like I'll go out, shoot what I consider a great round for me. Don't ask me a score because it's too embarrassing. But I'm like, oh man, I'm getting better. Then I come out with these high expectations. I like trotting up like, yeah, it's going to be a good day today, fellas. And I suck. And then it's not even a fun time. Golf is one of those sports where like, if you just have low expectations, it's going to be a great time no matter what. Before we get to the news, I wanted the people to get to know you a little bit better, Rob. And what we like to do is kind of do some rapid, quick hitters, maybe one or two worded responses on some questions to kind of get to know you a little bit better outside of football, even though the first two are football related. So we're going to start off with favorite NFL team.
Cleveland Browns.
Cleveland
Browns. Yeah, buddy.
Favorite NFL player, Rob. Robbie, you're so laggy, by the way.
Whew. I think I gotta go with Justin Jefferson at this point.
Yeah.
It's close.
Wait a second.
I know. I figured you probably knew from the draft.
No. In fact, it's the opposite because he was there just staring at you at 9, and you know what you did?
That's true.
Kelsey.
I know, a little gamesmanship, you know.
You wore it intentionally to throw everything else off.
I do. I was looking back at the picture. And like I was thinking to myself, I'm like, oh, there's gonna be tons of people wearing jerseys. Like every draft I go to, I usually wear jerseys for all sports. And I was looking at it, and I'm like, am I the only one wearing a jersey? I was like, I feel like an idiot now. Like,
well, I kind of felt we have our dad bod shirts, and I kind of felt embarrassed and scared to wear them. I thought everyone was gonna wear Scott Fishbowl shirts, so I was a little nervous with you. And I know we were outnumbered. Definitely, all three of us right here were outnumbered by the Scott Fishbowl shirts for sure.
As I say, yeah, the Fishbowl shirts definitely took over. But no, I thought those were sweet, to be honest with you.
So next question. I'm going to skip this next question. Actually, I'm going to go to next two because we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Favorite video game or board game? So maybe you're not a gamer in the video sense. Maybe you have a favorite board game, or you could give me both.
So I am actually, some buddies and I of us play like pretty intense like strategy board games. So like,
oh yeah,
like Twilight Imperium stuff. Like this is like really nerdy stuff. Like, but
that's all right.
But yeah, but those were cool. Blood Rage is another one. Scythe. I don't know if you guys have heard that, but
I've never heard of any of these though.
Dude, they're intense. They're super strategic. I just love, like I said, I love the competitiveness of it. I love like efficiency. So like trying to like get the mechanics to work really efficient. So yeah, stuff like that. But in terms of video games, I gotta go Madden, just because like I've played it for so long. Okay, there he is. That's with
what
the
I thought you were going to talk about when you're talking strategic, but you're talking next level.
Yeah. So Risk was my favorite for a long time, and then a couple of my buddies are like hardcore. They're like, they go to Gen Con, like everything. So they they got me into it, and like we all love it. So we play all the time. We used to. But yeah, and then video game, I got to go Madden, just because I played it for so long. I actually got like really, really good for a while, to the point where I was like ranked in the nation, in terms of I was playing against like guys that you see on TV in the tournaments and stuff. And I qualified for nationals. Like through my, yeah, like I was playing, dude, it was right before my son was born, basically. And like I was
relatively recent.
Yeah. It was 2018.
Okay.
So I was like playing. I was playing all local tournaments, winning local tournaments. I was playing online. I qualified for the Atlanta Nationals because I didn't really know how it worked, and I thought you registered for the team you wanted to play with. And at the time, I loved Atlanta because I loved Tevin Coleman in the game, plus Julio and everything else. But
Yeah.
so anyway, I played with Atlanta at the time, and so I registered with Atlanta instead of Cleveland. And so when I finished like as an alternate for nationals, they sent me an email like saying, "Hey, we're gonna fly you out to Atlanta if someone drops out." But no one dropped out, so I never went. But then that was it kind of like plateaued. I could never beat like the guys who were like above me in the ranks. They would just destroy me, and then so I kind of like my son was born, and then I haven't really played much since because I was like, this is just I'm spending so much time. I was playing every single day, like till like 2-3 in the morning, just doing everything like every day, grinding.
That's pretty awesome though, man. Like I pretty much stink at everything that you've talked about today. Like I'm not a very good video game player either. Like I try to play Madden and I'm not great, but I have fun.
Okay.
I have fun playing. Shout out to Silos who said yay, what's up? He plays a ton of Madden. So
yes, he does.
Okay.
I don't know if you play on Xbox. I think it's all cross-platform anyways, or PS5. I'll have to get you his gamer tag if you still get on occasionally or whatever.
You ranked, Willie, or what?
Let's see if he's still watching. Favorite musician.
Favorite musician. Drake.
I like Drake a lot.
Yeah.
Did you like the new album?
You know what's funny is I haven't actually listened. That's the funny part about it is I don't listen to a ton of music aside from like when I'm playing basketball, essentially, but because I listen to just so much fantasy podcasts for all sports. I mean, I listen just all day, basically all day at work and in the car ride. So I don't listen to a lot of music. So, but usually when I do, I have like a basketball mix, and I'm always slow to get around to the new stuff. So I actually haven't listened to the new album.
So I actually don't mind the new album. A lot of people hate on it, but it's all relatively like if you're listening to Drake, you're not listening to. I wouldn't call it rap. Sometimes it's hip hop, sometimes it's rap, sometimes it's R&B, and this one was definitely more R&B with like house beat.
I gotta check it out.
We Robbie and I lived together. Funny story, lived together back in college, and man, that was 2012 was our sophomore year. That was right at the peak of Drake, dude. We used to always be bumping Drake.
Oh, absolutely, man.
It was a way. Drink of choice. It could be alcohol or not.
So I'll say for alcohol, rum and Coke. For non-alcohol, go any kind of like lemonade.
Okay. I do love me some pink lemonade.
For sure.
I got two more for you. Cat or dog person? I'm gonna guess a dog, but you might like
more dog, but both. We have both, and I've had both my whole life. I love them both, but yeah, a little bit more dog.
And the last one actually, I know both. It's are you a fellow dad and married? And you are a fellow dad, and you are married.
Yep, 2016 we got married. We've been together for like 10 years, and 2018 my son was born. So, yep.
Awesome, man. That was right around I think we met you pretty much 2019. Yeah, definitely 2019. Yeah. So right around that time. That's awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
I lied to you when I said one more question because honestly, me and Robbie have been doing this thing where we're asking guests or whoever we're on the show with. They're the most, not your favorite, most recent TV show or movie you've watched that you've really enjoyed.
Most recent. So I actually just started last night. Peaky Blinders.
I need to try this.
Yeah, we tried it. We tried it like probably 6 months back or a year back or something. And this is the same kind of thing that happened with Breaking Bad. Like my wife and I tried it and we didn't really like get into it right away. But then I went back by myself and watched Breaking Bad and I was just addicted. I loved it. And then like I feel like it's kind of getting to the same way. I watched last night after I came home from basketball, I watched like 4 straight episodes and I couldn't fall asleep. It was like 2:30 in the morning, and I'm like, I got to get up at 6:30, but I just can't stop watching this. So yeah, I've been liking that one.
Have you seen Better Call Saul? If you're a Breaking Bad guy,
so I feel like it's going to be the same situation because I started watching it and for whatever reason I fell off of it. But that's another one I want to go back and watch.
Yeah.
So everyone hypes it.
Saul's good. I think it's better than Breaking Bad.
It's all good, man.
Yeah.
All right, let's actually get into some news. Oh, now Willie wants to respond. We shout him out. We say, "Hey, do you want to play some Madden?" No response. Now he wants to post something about Black Phone, which I've never heard.
Oh, it's that movie. It's that new movie out.
I heard it's good.
On what?
Theaters, I think.
Yeah. It's like a horror movie.
I know Nope comes out this weekend. I'm real pumped about that. I don't know if I'll go see it.
Yeah, for sure. I want to see that too.
Jimmy G was approved. Is that the word that we want to say? Permitted to seek trade. Permitted. Let's go with that.
Well, his agent's looking for a trade. So however you want to phrase that.
Rob, I'm going to go to you because we had a long Trey Lance discussion. Does this bring you more confidence about your Trey Lance ranking, if not making you, if you're not already moving him up a little bit higher because just this news?
I'll probably keep him about the same because I'm just expecting him to win, but it's just more of an it's more of an assurance. If he's dealt, obviously it's definitely more of an assurance.
Yeah,
I think
more comfortable.
For sure.
Reassuring. Justin Ross in walking boot. Robbie, I'm going to go to you here because both of us kind of looked at Justin Ross and we had. I don't want to say that we were drafting him out of line. I actually, unfortunately, typically didn't get him in anything that I was looking at him for, but we were excited to see him from a non-fantasy perspective get onto the Chiefs with Patty Mahomes. Does this worry you a ton?
Yes, it does.
Yeah,
I was super hyped on him coming into the draft. I had high hopes for our Cleveland Brownies to take him. Hopefully in like the 5th, I was hoping for that he would fall to us there, and then you see him not get drafted.
Yeah.
And you hear the rumblings of, that foot's not 100%. And then now
it was like a fear too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then now you see there's pictures of him in a walking boot. And I believe one of those little scooters that his foot's on the scooter. So he's not even, I don't know, but to that, he's probably not working out. He's not doing drills. He's not throwing to Patty Mahomes. So it sucks because I was hyped on him. I wanted to see him play because I thought he was an awesome talent at Clemson. So I hope he comes back. I hope maybe he'll sit out like half the season and he comes back and we can see what he can do for next year. But it sucks. I'm not happy about it.
Yeah, scary for his future in the NFL.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's more what I'm like. I hope he comes back.
I don't know if it's called a disease. I can't think of exactly what it was, but it was something in his back. I may be completely off here, but I just know it was something unfortunate for him to get diagnosed with. Albert O sharing reps with, I want to say it, I may mispronounce this last name, Greg Dulcich, and I think I'm saying it decently right. Funny story here, Rob, and you may have already heard this one. In the Scott Fish Bowl, I text Robbie, and Cody about my dream. Sometimes I'm not some spiritual person. I really am not. But sometimes I have dreams and I have a lot of deja vu moments. So anytime that it's football related, I immediately tell somebody or think it or write it down or whatever. And I had a dream and I'm like, and this is literally, the dream happened probably, I would say mid-May, end of May, where I just seen Greg Dulcich, his name. And at that point, I was just familiar that he was a rookie tight end. I didn't even remember that he was drafted to Denver. So I text these guys like the night before Scott Fish Bowl. That's not when the draft, that's not when the dream happened. But I just wanted to say, hey, maybe this is the draft that we grab Greg Dulcich, because it kind of rewards tight ends, especially if you could get some super good value late. So we're in the draft, we're doing our thing, and they're talking about Trey McBride. And I think Cody may have one point said your boy Trey McBride to me, but no mention of a dream. Like, I like Trey McBride, so I thought it was another one of my boys. No mention about a dream or anything like that. This is where Cody probably told you, I walked away because I didn't want to see the crap that they put. Well, we picked Trey McBride, and Cody comes back like, see, I gave you your boy. This is the one you had to dream. I'm like, no. We missed out on Dulcich. If he has a big year, I am forever holding this above both of your guys' heads. Not
I'm
you,
holding
Rob.
it above
Robbie
your head. You. Because I said specifically, Mario, your boy right here, we're going to go for him. Why else would I be talking about another rookie tight end after you literally just texted us? Hey,
Trey McBride is a stud too.
We have never talked about Trey McBride.
Yeah, we have.
That's so funny. That's so great. I was to say, I remember you guys doing that at the draft.
But
I didn't know it was about Dulcich though.
A little argument at the
we're
draft.
Dysfunctional as hell. You could tell we are a contestant winning team in Scott Fishbowl, if that's any way to put us.
well-oiled machine.
A quick hit from both of you. Albert O, dropping on your guys' rankings because of this news, or staying neutral right now of wherever you had him prior? I'll start with you, Rob.
Staying neutral. I just got a notification recently. I mean, maybe while we were talking about it, that Dulcich has like a core muscle injury too. So I don't know if there's I just popped up on my phone a little while ago, but he or maybe I just didn't see it for a while. But either way, I saw something about that. But so that's an interesting development too. But even if they're splitting reps, I kind of am not as big on Albert O as most people. And I'm not. I mean, I haven't really drafted much of either of them so far, so I think I kind of am just keeping it about the same with them. So that's kind of where I'm at with them.
Yeah, I'm with you, Rob. I wasn't high on Albert O to begin with. I just was never too big into him to, how everyone else was. So he was never high in my rankings. Dulcich, I mean, if anything, this moves him up for me for dynasty purposes. I don't think I'll touch him in redraft. But dynasty, it's nice to know that he's competing with. I mean, Albert O is still young, but a vet that should do something. Oh, look at that! Should do something. But I like the confidence that the coaching staff is showing in Dulcich, if anything.
It is about confidence for him, and I mean, he's definitely a guy in dynasty that it's probably too late to target. His price just went up way more than it needs to be, but maybe somebody to target if it comes back down, if Albert O is announced as starter. Because they obviously have some Dulcich love in that offense.
The issue is Albert O is going to be there because he's still super young. So it's not like taking a shot on a Trey McBride because Ertz is
his third year,
31, right? So how many years do you have of Ertz, right? Albert O is still decently young where he'll be around and annoying enough in that tight end room.
True.
You know what I mean? Like
it could be.
You never want that second tight end in there that can kind of steal 20
unless
targets,
it goes to a blocking. Yeah, I get what you're saying. I guess it depends more on the talent, if anything. Talent. So our episode today, I don't even know if I mentioned this in the intro. What a terrible host. Is breakout players for 2022.
Yeah.
Robbie and I have talked about some of probably what would be our favorite breakout players, and maybe we'll honorable mention them, like a quick hit. Like I would have probably added this guy, but what I'm trying to say is we had to go down, get a couple on our list beyond maybe our first choice because we've talked about them, so we wanted to bring more to the table is what I'm trying to say. Robbie, are you starting us off, or is Rob starting us off?
Rob is going to start us off here.
Awesome.
I'm up first, huh? Leading off.
Rob,
you're up.
Ready to roll?
That's the guest treatment. Oh, you didn't even give the exciting let him announce his player. Look. No, it's all right. It's all right.
That's all good with me. But yeah.
Sure. Go ahead, Rob.
Travis Etienne. He's a guy that I was kind of wasn't as huge on early in the process, but the more and more it goes on, I just can't stop moving him up my rankings basically. I mean, the guy, the biggest obviously worry is missing last year.
With the
Missed the
list,
entire.
Frank, which Robbie
Mhm.
put ACL injury on here. I don't mean
Oh,
to call you
I'm
out.
sorry.
Buddy.
It's an old slide. I apologize.
It's an
That's
old
my
slide.
fault. But yes,
So-
it is a Liz Frank.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So, but the thing is, he's going to be a full year removed from it. Seems all reports are that he's fully healthy right now. So usually I'm a guy that's very cautious with like coming back from major injuries, but I'm a guy that's cautious coming back from major injuries when you're within a year still. So like if it's an ACL, Achilles, Linz Frank, any kind of thing like that within a year, I get cautious about it. But he's going to be full year removed. Not only that, but James Robinson, I mean, tore his Achilles week 16. Yeah. So like, they can show
that's even more of a kiss of death.
Exactly. I mean, we saw Cam Akers make like a miraculous comeback.
Yeah. Insane for any metrics.
Right, sorry, right. Rob. No, you're good. But yeah, it's insane that how fast he came back. But even when he came back, he didn't look the same. He wasn't as explosive, way less efficient. James Robinson already was a guy like, yeah, he's been great, but he's also, not like the most explosive guy. He was good in fantasy and he was a good player in real life, but he wasn't like an explosive kind of like guy with top end speed. And if you have, something that's going to sap you, like that's a worry for me. So to me, ETN is a guy that's like profiles. I mean, his profile, like if you look at like player profiler, biggest comp is DeAndre Swift, and then a lot of scouts are comping him to Kamara, right? Like similar size, skill set. The dude was, elite college production, first round draft capital. Now you think about it. Think about like first round draft capital guys that are usually in like a rookie year, and essentially is what his redshirt rookie year essentially. If they have like a workhorse role lined up, those guys are usually like Najee last year was going late first round, early second. Like, yeah, ETN has some worry because he's coming off the injury, but he profiles as a truly elite back. He has, he's going to be a great pass catcher.
Same quarterback.
Same quarterback in college, exactly. Yeah, for sure, the comfortability. Especially when you have a young quarterback that you're building your franchise around, you want that guy. I mean, they always talk about stuff with Tom Brady where he always has that comfortability with the running back, and that's why Fournette played so much over guys. So if you have a young quarterback you're building the franchise around, are you going to want the guy he's extremely comfortable with in the backfield with him? I would think so. So yeah, I think he's going to be on the field a lot. Even the aggregate ranks that I've been using and pulling like projection wise, they have him for like 208 carries, 905 yards, 6.2 touchdowns, 56 catches, 448 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So I think there's a lot more room for upside from that. And even that has him at RB14 in full PPR ranks. So I have him as my running back 12 right now. His ADP has been like definitely climbing. Like on Underdog, he's up to I think RB16, but still only RB16. So like he's a guy that like pretty much every time in the third round I'm kind of grabbing him, and I love the upside.
So it's funny that you mentioned Underdog there because I want to say largely this is the reason that I decided, and I know that injuries can happen, so this will also bite me in the ass in areas. ETN was largely the reason that I did a ton of best balls in early June because he was going mid to late fourth at that point. And I was like, let me try to get him as much as I can. This is a great bargain for him. I think one thing that because I'm all on board with this train. I think this is a stud in the making. There's two things I want to talk about here with this too, Rob, is T-Law led the league in check down percentage last year. 11.3, which I think was over a percentage point more than the second one. So with that being said, one of the things you told me about Trey Lance is his rushing floor pretty much, I'm paraphrasing here because it's not exactly how you said it, but his rushing floor pretty much his rushing puts him at a floor that's almost top 15 by itself in a way.
Yep.
And I think ETN is a very similar, I guess, approach to this because his receiving work, which I think 56 is a little bit low, even though we don't really know. His receiving work should put him at a floor, which should put him at about RB 15. So like I look at DeAndre Swift's numbers, that to me from last season, missing games, but those numbers over a full length, that to me is where I put Travis Etienne's floor. And I think Swift was about RB 15. I think it was about 60, 65 receptions and 170 carries. And honestly, 170 to 200 carries, that's fine for Etienne. I just am expecting a ton of work in the backfield catching the ball.
And the other thing that is crazy about it, like you said, like Swift was RB 15 with only 170 carries. I mean, there's been studies showing like I think it's at this point that a reception is basically 3 times as valuable as a carry in full PPR, and like that's why like all the time in my rankings for like years now, I push up the pass catching running backs in full PPR like far more than a lot of people do. Like I've been huge on Eckler, huge on Kamara for so long. And like ETN just profiles as another guy like that because like you said, it's such a high floor. Like if you're getting 5-6 targets a game, and you're catching, all but one basically. So you're getting 4 or 5 points plus the yardage. You're almost to 10 points just real quick like that. I mean, we see obviously McCaffrey's different level, but we see like when he's playing like that workload in the pass game is so ridiculous. And like you said, it gives you such a high floor that you don't even need a lot of carries. And so the thing with ETN too, that with the upside that I think that he has is like, I agree. That's like his floor. Now let's say James Robinson has a setback or doesn't even come back full go. I mean, ETN
crazy.
That's what I'm saying. ETN could be a true worker who's getting 220, 250 carries even and getting, 60, 70 catches, 80 catches even. Like, I mean, that's like upper percentile outcomes, but still like that's the kind of upside I can see him having on an improving offense, especially getting Urban out of town, like as much as loved him for the Buckeyes, but you know what I mean? Like it's just all improving for them. So that's I love ETN.
I'm high on T-Law this year because I think you have a competent coach that comes in and can, run an efficient offense, and that's going to go through ETN. There's no question about it. So T-Law, ETN, I think the Jags are going to be it's going to be a big step forward for that team.
One last thing that you made a great point there is a lot of times you will get that answer. Well, J-Rob is still there. And first off, I don't necessarily believe him to be ready for week 1. I personally don't. Same. But if he is, I don't care. I don't care because we saw this with Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram. We saw this last year with DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams. We've seen this play out in so many ways. And I want that pass catching back all the time for that discount because they're going to finish strong.
Yep.
I had a great year that year because he had a ton of rushing touchdowns, but
exactly. And the other one that's the high end version of obviously Eckler. But the thing is like heading into last year, people were still like more down on him because he was coming off of it. 11th? Yeah, he was coming off injury, and they were everyone's like, oh, they're not going to give him the they're not going to give him a ton of carries. They're not going to give him the goal line roll, like all these things. And it's like, it doesn't matter if the dude gets like 70, 80 plus catches, like it just really doesn't matter. And if he does get those rolls, look at the upside.
RB2,
like,
right?
That's what I'm saying. So like ETN, obviously ETN doesn't have like, somewhere in there, I think, but ETN doesn't have like that same like true upside because the offense isn't going to be, it's not likely going to be what Chargers scoring was. So he doesn't have like the same touchdown, like upside and equity, but I mean, he has that kind of like workload upside and things like that. So I'm definitely love him. Yep, exactly.
Dang it, Austin Eckler. I think he went on to a podcast and said to, I think it was Fantasy Footballers. He said, I'm not going to get the goal line work. That's probably where all that doubt came from. Robbie, do you want to hit us with your breakout player, your first of 2?
Hold on one second.
You're thinking about it. You're like, I don't know if I really.
You had the slides mixed up, but I'll go. Why not?
All right, great.
So we're gonna go with Courtland Sutton this season. So This is his second year coming off an ACL injury. He had 58 receptions, 776 yards on 95 targets. Of the 95 targets, he only had one drop, which is huge for me. What's that tell me? So he had 58 receptions, 95 targets. The quarterback could not get him the ball. That's all that tells me. So Sutton was third in ADOT with 15.8 yards behind MVS Emmanuel Sanders. Last season, Russ was number 1 in ADOT. That's huge for me. He likes to go downfield. He's going to go downfield. In 17, 18, 19, he finished 4th each year in ADOT. I'm all about Russ throwing the ball downfield. This is a perfect combination of a deep field threat and a quarterback that loves to throw it. Throw long. That's all they're going to do in this offense.
Do you fear Jerry Jeudy? In that offense?
I don't.
Prime stud.
To me, he's a short yardage receiver.
Yeah.
And I think Russ has proven that he likes to throw the ball long. I'm not worried about Jeudy. I'm not worried about Tim Patrick. If anything, I'm more worried about Tim Patrick than Jeudy.
That's fair.
No, I think I wouldn't be shocked if we saw 3 receivers come out of this offense. Now, I'm not saying all within the top 24 because that's just bonkers. And I think Cortland's size will always lead me to like him the most from this offense. Even though Tim Patrick is a big dude, I just don't know if he'll receive the same sort of snap share that you see Cortland all over Russell's Instagram videos. And I know that sounds silly and it's kind of terrible analysis, but let's not forget the Breakfast Club or any of the other quarterbacks and the wide receivers that start building a nice chemistry in the offseason, and then they come out on the same freaking page looking great.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I literally I was gonna say for me, for a long time I couldn't really separate Sutton and Jeudy, but as it's gone on, I've kind of pushed Jeudy down more, pushed Sutton up more, and Sutton, just everything seems to be clicking for Sutton. It seems like everything seems to click correctly with, like you said, all that stuff may seem insignificant, but it seemed insignificant last year with Cooper Kupp. I mean, it was hard to separate Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. I was a Robert Woods guy, I'll be honest. And so Sutton to me has that chance to be this year's, Cooper Kupp, where the mid-round wide receiver with so much upside where he could everything could click right. The other thing I love about it, how you're talking about with the Broncos, that whole division, I mean, pretty much has improved. I mean, maybe not the Chiefs, but
they're gonna have to be thrown.
They're still gonna be, that
100%.
I was listening to, I think it was a PFS podcast with Ian Hartitz and Dwayne McFarland, and they were talking about all the the over-unders are set for games right now, and obviously they're going to fluctuate throughout the year, but I think they said over 50% of the games that are over 50 come from the AFC West, NFC West games, just those two alone. And you look at all those teams, and they play them twice, so they got 6 games that could likely line up as shootouts, and they also play against the NFC West too. So you're looking at so many games that could be shootouts, and if they let him cook and with that offense, I mean,
let him cook.
It could be so good for Sutton.
Yeah, I mean, just the combination of the two. Russ's average depth of target throws, he's finished under 4th once since 2017, and that was when he finished 12th in 2020, I believe it was. So he just proved to me, he just proves he loves to throw the ball deep, and that's what he's good at doing. He's good at throwing the ball deep. The deep threat in the Denver offense is Cortland Sutton. I think it's just a perfect marriage between the two players. I really do, and I'm excited to see how this is going to play out in Denver, because I really do think Sutton can have a year that we're going to look back and be like, whoa, that was...
So the Broncos play Kansas twice, and correct me if I'm wrong here, fellas, but didn't T. Higgins put up 202, and then Gabe Davis in the playoffs put up 204 on this defense? Am I wrong about that? I think that was all last year. Now, I don't think they've really built that secondary up at all. In fact, they lost. Did they lose Honey Badger?
Yes, Saints.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, he went back to New Orleans.
So, I mean, like, I know that's only 2 weeks, but like to the point of what you both are saying, all of these teams spent a lot of money, except for the Chargers. They added some nice defensive work.
Yeah.
The Raiders spent a lot of money on offense. I think they just traded their safety, who I thought is a stud. He was on Hard Knocks a couple years ago, Jonathan Abram.
Mm-hmm.
I think they just
Yep.
traded him. And the Chiefs' defense is trash.
As long as that offensive line can give Russ some time to throw the ball, which if we look back at it, the Seattle offensive line was terrible. So even then, Russ has proven that he can do it. I just have no concerns. And what you brought in earlier, Mario, when you asked me about Jerry Jeudy, if anything, I personally think that helps Cortland Sutton out because you can't shadow him all game with the number one cornerback. You're going to have to give some attention to Jeudy. You're going to have to give some attention to, I mean, not as much of Tim Patrick, but you have to account for him. So you can't double team Cortland Sutton all game. Like, he's going to get his opportunities downfield. And if you have a quarterback that can get him the ball, I think the sky's the limit. I really do.
And no joke, if I miss on one, a lot of times I'm targeting the other one, and then even more, I go to target the Tim Patrick if I miss on both.
I know. Well, that's the thing, is because it's, as much as we love Cortland Sutton, like, it still is like we acknowledge that it's like it's somewhat ambiguous. So like, especially in like best ball drafts, I've been doing that kind of same thing. Like, I prefer Sutton the most, but like then I'll take a couple shots at Jeudy, and I like taking shots at Patrick late. I mean, because he's produced really well for, especially versus his ADP over the past couple of years, and now he's getting the upgrade, obviously. So like, it is like, if you miss out, you still can take those shots, and if it does work out in that way, then you're still getting those pieces of that high end offense.
Yeah, interesting note before I go to mine, just a real quick hitter is Cortland Sutton in 2019 did a lot of his damage with Joe Flacco at helm. Once Drew Lock took over, which was half the season in 2019, it was far less as superior of a half for him. And then, I mean, it wasn't awful. It really wasn't that bad, but it just wasn't the numbers that he put up in the first half. And then following it, it was the ACL tear. And then last year was Teddy Bridgewater, who has kind of shown that he doesn't really support fantasy wide receivers.
Yeah, two quarterbacks that accuracy downfield is not their strength.
Yeah.
Right.
So it just doesn't align with his profile. So that's why I'm super high on him this year. And I think, I'm ready to see it.
And the funny part about the Flacco thing that you mentioned too is like, even though Flacco wasn't any kind of like elite quarterback or anything like that, but if you watched him, he if you watched him, like, he was slinging it deep a lot. So like, it definitely makes sense. Exactly. So it makes sense. So
that's his bread and butter, Joey Flacco.
Oh, Joey Flacco. So this ADP has drastically changed. I'm not meaning to put you on the spot here, but I'm pretty sure it's like 14 now. Let me check.
I'll look it up.
15. So my guy, Irv Smith Jr., being drafted as tight end 15. I have a whole spiel of why I think he's going to break out this year. Last season, Kirk threw 94 times to his tight end. So they had 94 targets, and it was pretty much all Conklin. I think he had about 87 of them. So that's important because this is the same offense that they're bringing back. Obviously, it's going to be a different scheme. They're probably going to be running a lot more wide receiver 3 sets. It's just fine. I'm okay with that. But let's look back to the last time Irv Smith did play, and it was in 2020. And he largely split a lot of time. That was his rookie season. He largely split a lot of time with what I call the tight end killer, Kyle Rudolph, because for a while and towards the end of Kyle Rudolph's career, he was the tight end killer. He would take enough targets. He was what Cody used to call Mike Davis in the backfield, somebody just enough to nag at your RB and cause them not to be as significant.
Vulture.
He's a vulture, yeah. So in the last 4 games, Kyle Rudolph went out, so weeks 14 through 17 in 2020. Irv Smith had 20 targets, 15 receptions, 183 yards, and 3 TDs. In that span, that ranked him as tight end number 4. I get it. That's not enough. I understand we're kind of living on a prayer here with using that information. But it's interesting to look at and to note when he has the tight end position to himself, does pretty well. Vikings didn't bring back Rudolph last year. So again, there was kind of this smaller hype train for Irv Smith, not crazy. And he ended up, was it his ACL?
I believe so.
I can't think of what it was, but it was a season-ending injury. Let's go back even further. In 2015 to 2016, Kirk supported Jordan Reed now Jordan Reed's a stud, as tight end 3 in 2015 and tight end 9 in 2016. Irv offers some of this same upside. He was dominant his junior year at Alabama as the 4th option, which may be where we're talking here. Maybe 3rd. Depends on how KJ Osborne looks. But he could be a serious problem, even if you have your defenses focusing on one of the best wide receivers in the game, Rob Norton's favorite, Justin Jefferson. Adam Thielen is still a problem, especially in the end zone. Dalvin Cook. And then even again, we have Alexander Madison and KJ Osborne to worry about. So Irv Smith is going to be here probably lining up against a lot of, I would say, linebackers. And probably having a ton of mismatches. Not that expensive, but it is getting to a point where it's not as fun at tight end 15. But I mean, I think he sees 80 to 90 targets this year. And in Alabama, going off of Alabama, and even on that short stint, that should be enough to prove as a top 12 to top 10 sort of tight end. I think this is the year that we see Irv Smith come out. I'm not going to call for a top 5 year, but I think this is that breakout year where he starts getting drafted a lot higher after a season.
Yeah, for sure. I like Irv Smith too. And how you were talking about, I was just looking at his player profile page to see like what they have a cool like chart on over the last month, their ADP, it's like a line chart of how line graph of showing how he was. So a month ago he was getting drafted around 140 ADP and he's up to 122.5 as of today. So people are getting on the hype train. Yeah, people are getting on the hype train. So I agree with you. I told you earlier, when we were talking about it, I like him too. I like the offense. They seem like they're going to be a lot more pass happy. Cousins is the type of guy that he kind of gets a bad rap, but if you look at his numbers, he's actually like a lot better than what people give him credit for in general. And so, so like I like Irv, especially like I'm generally more of a greater late kind of tight end guy. Get one early or get one late, or maybe get 2 late, and so he's a guy I've been looking at later in drafts.
And one of the guys that I told you guys I wanted to kind of avoid talking about, Cole Kmet, is kind of like that Twitter darling right now. So I thought that would be kind of lame to go over. I think he's going to get loaded in targets, but
his ADP is going to go up crazy.
How many years in a row have we seen where there's a tight end past, I don't know, tight end 11, tight end 12, past that ends up in the top 5? And like right off the top of my head, George Kittle was that one year. Darren Waller was that one year. Dalton Schultz was that last year. Robert Tonyan, did he come in top 5?
Yeah, 2 years ago.
So it's every year.
Probably because of that.
A guy that you could get late that ends up in the top 5, and
Dawson Knox.
Dawson Knox.
He was last year. The stat of the tight end is, if you're in the top 5, I believe it's you either have 90 targets or double-digit touchdowns. Mm-hmm. So that's the question. Can he get to one of those numbers?
Right.
And I mean, hopefully 90 targets, because I don't know if double digits.
I don't see him. That's the thing. I don't see him getting the 10 touchdowns just in this offense with Thielen, especially if Thielen's there. I
was about to lose my mind on you.
No, about Thielen's there, right? Okay. So unless Thielen goes down, then I'm all aboard. But I can see 90 targets.
Yeah, I can.
Right. I think it's definitely possible. And like you said, that's for top 5, right? That's what.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I was gonna say I think I saw that out there getting put out there. I think
that was Andrew Cooper.
Fiasco.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people putting that one up, but yeah.
Yeah, and
he sold me on Evan Ingram as well.
He did.
Yeah.
I'm glad because I'm in on him. But yeah, it's the same, because it's the same kind of thing. Like he said, like 90 plus targets or double-digit touchdowns. And I think in his tweet he said there was no tight ends last year with double-digit touchdowns.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is. I would have guessed that Knox did it just by the fact of how crazy he was early. He did 9.
Yeah,
okay, that makes sense.
Weird.
He's right there. But yeah, so I agree though. Like I think the 90 targets is more likely than the 10 touchdowns. You never know though. Obviously, like just good touchdown luck could run his way. But if he's out there running a lot of routes, it's definitely possible. But like you said, that's for top 5. So and you weren't even saying he needs to be top 5. If he can get just a little step below that, and then he can easily be a top 12, top 10 kind of guy.
Yeah, like there will be a point where his ADP probably gets too high and too rich for what I'm trying to say here. Because I don't want this to sound like a sleeper. I think he's gonna have a breakout year. I really do. His breakout though is gonna be capped in the sense of okay, he might be a tight end 6 this year. Thielen's getting a year older. That offense opens up a little bit more for him if one of these wide receivers end up leaving. So this is the point where he won't be drafted this late anymore is kind of what I'm saying with that. Rob,
yes.
You had a second one.
I do.
Wrong Rob. Wrong Rob. You're Robbie. Remember, look, it says Robbie only for this episode. I'm doing good.
We did good.
No.
We did good for a while.
Yeah, we were cruising for a minute.
We did really well for a while. So Rob, if you want to kick off with your second player.
And this guy, Trey Lance. So, I mean, with Trey Lance, like I'm a huge sucker for running QBs. Like every year, I feel like it's just stealing money by taking the latest ADP type QB that can run a lot. I mean, we saw it last year with Jalen Hurts. His ADP was too low, and he finished as QB6. We saw it year before with Josh Allen. I mean, he wasn't the same like level of rushing in terms of yardage, but we see it with him. Kyler Murray was too low. Lamar Jackson, same thing, too low. So like when I was looking at Lance, I mean, the biggest worry we were talking about earlier is Jimmy G possibly still playing for them. So that's the only downside. But to me, like even if he's not good, I mean, last year, for example, Jalen Hurts, I think he had only 16 passing touchdowns and 9 picks, and he was still QB6 points per game. I mean, and Lance is getting more love than Hurts did, and I think it's more because of the environment and the draft capital itself. But at the same time, I think he also, because of those things, has more upside. I mean, I know there's a knock on him about his passing, but he was, I mean, it was a small sample, obviously. It was the 1 year in college, and it was FCS, but he did throw for 28 touchdowns, no picks. But again, it's a small sample. Last year when he did play, he was kind of rough on passing in the one start. But even in that game, that first game that he started, he only had 192 pass yards and 0 touchdowns and 1 pick. But he ran 16 times for 89 yards. And with if you were going to say your quarterback had 192 passing yards, 0 touchdowns and a pick, but he still gave you 15.6 fantasy points, like that's insane. And then the game that he had a better passing game, the next start, he ran only 8 times but for 31 yards and 249 pass yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. It was 20.1 points. The game where he came in, he ran 7 times for 41 yards, 157 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 20 fantasy points. If this guy can even run, like if you extract, it's small sample sizes for sure, but in the 2 starts, he averaged 60 yards a game. In the 3 games, counting the game that he came in, it was still 53.7 yards a game. If you extrapolate those out, it's over 1,000 or 912. If he even gets anywhere near close to that, he can put up 16 passing touchdowns and 9 picks and still be a borderline top 5 guy. And the other thing that I love about him is that Shanahan, to me, is one of the best offensive schemers there is. And I think I think he can just insulate him. I think he's gonna tailor the offense around him to get him out in space, get him running more, because it's only going to open up running lanes for the running backs too, which we know Shanahan is like the best at run zone schemes, like getting guys into space. He's incredible at. So when you put another athlete out there to open things up and confuse the defense, keep them honest, it's going to be so good. And then on top of that, I think he's going to get the ball out of his hands quick. I think he's going to get it out to guys like Kittle and Debo, Ayuk, and Kittle and Debo are like two of the best yak monsters in the league by far. So
Debo had like the second highest yak in the last 11 seasons. It's insane.
Right? It's unbelievable. So like that offensive environment, I think like he doesn't have to be a great passer. First off, even if he's a bad passer and he runs as much as like the extrapolated numbers, he can be Jalen Hurts or worse and be fine. But if he gets insulated even more by a higher scoring offense and like more yak monsters than what Hurts had, his passing numbers could be even better. He could score more touchdowns. And I mean, the guy truly has like top 3, top 5 quarterback upside. And so like, yeah, for me, like the only way to me he fails if he doesn't start all 17 games or gets hurt. Like that's to me, that's the only way he fails. Like he's gonna out earn ADP almost for sure.
Currently.
Yeah.
Currently, right? I mean, like
yeah.
He's moving up quite a bit too recently.
He is.
Talking me into him.
His best ball ADP is pretty crazy. I just looked on fantasy.
Yeah, his best ball's nuts.
On the Fantasy Pros ADP is at 14 right now, so I think he still out earns that.
Yeah. Oh, to me, it's an absolute lock that he's a top 12 guy if he plays all 17 games, even points per game wise. Not even just total points, because obviously, like pretty much anyone at most positions, if they play total points and you play full season, like you're getting up there. But talking points per game, like I said, last year Hurts was points per game 6. So like I think if he plays the full season and doesn't get hurt, Jimmy G doesn't start any games for them, and he's gone or whatever, he's like a lock for top 12, top 10.
Yeah, so like something when we were having this discussion, because I've been notoriously low on him, and I actually, my reasonings is pretty simple. Is like this dude went to a smaller school, played 1 year. Yeah, he threw no interceptions, and got drafted as high as he did. So I almost have like this like resentment towards him for no apparent reason. But it's true. Like I don't think he's that great of a thrower that he got drafted that high. But when we're talking fantasy, and this is what you kind of had to make me realize, Cody has been trying to tell me for a while now, is we statted out what we saw at his floor. We statted out his floor if he played 17 games. That's what I think I projected. I'm projecting him at his floor. And so people were aware of what I'll go with my projection if I remember it off the top of my head, which I very much so think it's at floor. 3,800 yards, so a little over 200 a game. 23 TDs, so a little over 1 TD a game, maybe like 1.3, and 13 interceptions. And you could run that number all the way up to 20 interceptions. His rushing stat line I have him at is 530 yards and 4 TDs. So this projection that I have for him would put him at QB 13 last year. That's got to be a pretty big, like that's got to be your floor there. Like,
yeah,
I would be surprised if he had less than 500 yards. I'd be surprised if he had less than 4 TDs. I mean, you can say the passing can be worse, but like that's low for this league and in San Fran.
Right. And that's the thing that's so crazy to me is that like you when you just think about the scoring format, like if he does happen to get 1,000 yards rushing, just like, I mean, we didn't really think about it, but like it reminds me similar like Lamar. I mean, I think Lamar is more like shifty and explosive, things like that. I see Lance more of like closer to Cam in terms of like style of running. I think he's more like Cam Kaepernick kind of like running, but like at the same time, if he does, we didn't expect Lamar to just bust out for his first like full starting season and be the MVP and for 1,000 yards. So if he does even approach 1,000 yards,
it's
true.
It's true.
Very
so
true.
even if he does approach like 1,000 yards, just for numbers' sake, that's 2,500 extra yards that someone has to pass that doesn't run really. Essentially, I mean, not fully because they're not getting 0, but like, you know what I mean? Like if he had 1,000 more yards rushing than another quarterback,
points.
Right. So that's 2,500 passing yards they have to throw him. So even if he throws 2,500 yards, they have to throw 5,000 yards just to match him points wise. And then you take into a touchdown. Say he rushes for 6 touchdowns. It's realistic. Someone would have to throw for an extra 9 touchdowns if they didn't get any. So if he threw 23, they'd have to go 5,032 just to match him.
And
it's like crazy.
Think of this in even a little bit of a different way, even though the math won't come out. Well, it will. If he runs for 500 rush yards and a quarterback that like Kirk Cousins, who largely doesn't scramble, or if Joe Burrow doesn't scramble at all again this year, which he didn't last year, if he does it for 500 yards, that's what 50 points. So then that's
1,250.
1,250.
Yeah.
That's 1,250 more yards. So like if we're putting them at a line of 35, even if it's a lower line of 3,500 passing yards, that same quarterback will have to have 4,750.
Yeah. That's
so it's pretty crazy. And that's without touchdowns.
Right. And that's what's crazy. That's why I love those guys so much, in a standard like QB scoring league, especially. And the other thing is, especially 1 QB leagues. Like if you're talking about 12-team 1 QB leagues, we know how replaceable they are. They're the most easily replaceable on the wire, because generally most people only really want to draft one or want to wait as much as they can, because you have such a level of guys that just, because they start the whole game and get volume, but they're all like mediocre. So like you can get any of those guys and play matchups on the wire so much better than you can, because everybody's after the running back, the hot running back on the wire. Like everybody's off. That guy gets hurt, everyone's putting in all their fab as much as they can and whatever, and getting the next guy. So QBs are so easily accessible, like on the wire. So for me, I always shoot for the upside in 1 QB standard scoring leagues, knowing that, hey, if they don't hit, even if they don't hit to like the level I'm hoping they do, there's always like replacement worthy guys on the wire.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's solid. And like Trey Lance is going at that ADP where you're probably loading up 2 QBs in the draft anyways. I mean, even in a single QB league where you're kind of taking that late flyer, a lot of times I like to take a second, unless my roster is like, unless the bench is tiny, I'm usually taking a second guy. Double my chances there. I like that, Rob. That was good. I hate it though at the same time, because it's just not something I wanted to be a part of. But I am now. I'm here. I've moved him up pretty significantly in my rankings. He hasn't cracked my top 12 quite yet, but he's on the border, and the season has yet to start. QB 13, by the way, is where I currently have him.
There's still room. There's still room on the bandwagon.
I need to see some more. I need to hear some more hype. The arm fatigue shit doesn't bother me at all, though. I think that's just straight stupid. So my next player that I wanted to talk about is Rashad Bateman. I know we mentioned Lamar, and it was funny because, Rob, there was in your Discord, plug your Discord here.
Okay. Appreciate it.
Maybe be able to like tweet it out or something. In your Discord, there is you guys were talking about the Trey Lance thing and like comparing it to Lamar, and like I love the rushing quarterback. I really do. And this one was hard for me. Like I normally, I guess, I should go back a couple years. When we talked in 2019, and it was probably on an episode that we had, I was relatively, so maybe this is me. I was relatively low on Lamar, and there was my reason though, bad reason. My reason was I just thought he was too small to be running as much as he was.
Okay.
And so 2019 would have been going to be his start. The start of his first year. If you didn't see her run in the corner, I can't wait to rewatch it. It's gonna be funny. So 2019 was the start his full first year, right? Like that was gonna be. We were probably talking before that season. I was like, he can't be running like all this, man. He's gonna get hurt. And Trey Lance is a little bit bulkier than Lamar. I haven't said anything about that with Lance. So love Lamar now. I love Hurts now. I like the rushing QB, but I've been struggling with getting on the Lance train. But I got a little carried away and distracted here. Let me go into my guy. It's Rashad Bateman. Cat threw me off, guys. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm gonna take over here.
No, I'm good. Hollywood last season. I know I'm talking about Rashad Bateman, but I just want to bring this back. Hollywood in the weeks 1 through 11 when Lamar was playing, because Lamar went out in week 12 very early in the game. It was actually, I think that's the game I went to. I went to 2 games last year, Rob, the Broncos game and that one.
Okay.
Had 93 targets in that time. So in 11 weeks, 93 targets. That's pretty significant. About 8.5 targets a game is what that was. So skipping 2020 for Rashad Bateman here, because I'm going back to his college football stats. I'm not even going to talk about 2021, where he was number 2 guy in an offense that doesn't throw a ton, and he played about 5 games with Lamar. So we're skipping that. We're just going to skip 2021 about Rashad Bateman's stats. I'm going to go back to college. But I'm also going to skip 2020 because he played 5 games. It was COVID season. So I want to kind of talk about his 2019 season. He went 60 for 1,219 yards, 11 TDs. So very efficient on a lower reception count. Going to this heavy running team, he's going to be like, this is the Mark Andrews, J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, Lamar show. I would put Rashad Bateman as like the 3-4 kind of read here, in the sense of an RPO, or like he's a it's not like they're going to be throwing a ton, but he is the wide receiver 1 there. He's a clear cut wide receiver 1. Devin Duvernay is fast. He's not quite as talented as Rashad Bateman. He's being drafted at wide receiver 38. I think this is an easy payout here. I think you can grab him at that ADP as long as it doesn't keep raising. And honestly, I have him ranked at, I think, wide receiver 20, which I'm high. I know that's high, but there's just, the volume should be there. Lamar wants to throw. I get it that this offense has said everything that they want to run, but Bateman, there's going to be a lot of defensive focus on Mark Andrews. Like, this could very well pan out to be, I don't want to say this because I'm going to get shit for it, but like a poor man's Tyreek and Travis Kelce, in the sense of like, there's your 1-2 options. That's who I'm going to.
Right. Fair.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I get what you're saying. There's going to be balls thrown. Balls
are going to be all over the place.
Yeah, balls will be balls. So who's going to get the targets? I agree with that. I mean, Mark Andrews can't get any more than he did last season, right? It was like 150 right? targets or something like that.
Yeah.
So he cannot get any more targets than he did last year. That's, even last year was crazy. So the vacated targets from Hollywood, yeah, they're going to go to probably Bateman, most of them.
I try to figure this out. Like, Lamar ain't checking it down, right?
No.
Like, he's not known to do that.
He likes to throw.
So, and like, I expect them to throw significantly less than last year. And by significantly, I mean probably like 100 pass attempts less. But that's still right around 475 to 500 pass attempts.
Yeah. Still an NFL offense. They're going to throw.
Yep. I can't even name their wide receiver 3 right now. I'm blanking on it. It's not Snead or anymore, I don't believe.
I know they have Prochet and they have Duvernay.
He's been getting taught. Prochet's been getting a lot.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's getting a little love, but yeah, those. I mean, I agree with you. We were talking earlier. You know, I'm in. Bateman's got great draft capital. Yeah. He was a guy that like he flashed even last year, and that was
with
Huntley. Huntley. I was gonna say that was with Huntley, and it was also, you know, Lamar was in and out for a little while, and then also, you know, I think Bateman started off slow because of injury too, and so he never really got fully rolling. But yeah, I'm with you, especially like you said, Hollywood gone. There's a lot of vacated targets, and they probably, like you said, will run a little bit more, try to get back to what they do best. But like you said, I mean, those running quarterbacks, they check down so low amount, so most of their throws do go like to the top 2 guys, and he's shown he can support 2 guys. So I'm here for the Bateman breakout.
I really am excited. I think Bateman, and again, maybe a kind of crazier take, I do think Bateman runs better routes than Hollywood. I think Hollywood is way faster, but I think Bateman has some cleaner routes. So I'm excited to see. Now, are they going to be on the same level that Hollywood and Lamar were? I actually really like Hollywood as a player, so that's the only part that worries me a bit.
That's the question, right?
A lot of fun watching it. Yeah.
Will it take a year
Could
to get that connection, that click?
Lamar seemed like if I had to pick a quarterback to play for, like everyone would say Tom or whatever, Lamar would be really fun to play with.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
he's just so funny and like bold and like brave. Like he just says some things on Twitter and interviews, and like you saw it with the Mark Ingram interview. Big trust. Like I love it.
Well, you saw it with last week on Twitter, man, when he was going off.
He was,
Who
yeah.
was that?
Safety. It was a safety I played years ago.
They were going back and forth. It was wild.
I know. Yeah, it's funny too, because like for a while, like in 2019, that breakout year, he was like my most drafted QB because, like I said, I'm always thinking just like the latest guy that's running. That's usually my most drafted QB pretty much every year. So I had a ton of him. And like so many of my, like especially my home leagues with like a ton of Browns fans, they just like hated it that I was like so pumped for Lamar killing it. And like I even feel like a little bad about it, but at the same time, like I just love the dude's. Yeah, the dude's so fun to watch. He's like so fun off the field. He seems like such a great dude in general.
Can't
like
hate him.
He's awesome. Yeah,
you can't hate him.
Exactly.
I confession before we get into your last one here, Rob. Okay. I consider myself to be a pretty good Browns fan. I don't use the phrase that's so Browns like. I don't get mad. I'm usually really optimistic, even if it's heading for a 1-16 year or a 1-15 year.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But last year, man, I have a lot of hate for the Steelers, and like and nothing about the fans. Just I just it's a Browns Steelers thing. You guys have hates for us. I'm not, but I am kind of a crappy fan in the sense of like I was having fun and watching Bengals in the playoffs, and I like watching Baltimore as well. But like I was having a lot of fun with Bengals. I was like, you know what, temporary Bengals fan for the playoffs. What's up, guys?
Same state.
Yeah. I was like same state. I mean, I'm in Columbus. I'm middle of the road here, anyways. You could go wherever.
That's true.
But like Ben, I mean, I grew up near Cleveland, so obviously just not as close as you, Robbie. But
that's right.
Yeah,
I'm right here, baby.
It was right fun to watch the Bengals in the playoffs. Robbie, why don't you kick us off with your last one, and we'll wrap up here.
I'll keep it short and sweet. We're gonna get into Derek Carr. I'm big on him this year. So last year he finished top 5 in the NFL in pass attempts, completions, completion percentage, and yards. Mario, where was the one stat that he fell off?
He didn't have no TDs. 23, right?
He didn't have no TDs. Tell him, Mario. He did not.
I'm getting good at just memorizing stats, which is weird.
You're getting good. That's why I throw it to you. So he finished 12th last year, which isn't terrible, right? But the difference from number 1, Tom Brady, to Derek Carr was a total of 20 touchdowns, right? 43 to 23. Oof. That is gigantic, especially when, just like Rob's been stating this whole time, you're not a rushing quarterback. It's a huge difference.
Touchdowns.
Right? So
here it comes.
Now Carr.
Touchdowns.
No. Now can Carr close that gap, right? So the Raiders gave him the most prolific red zone target in the entire NFL. There's no questions about it, right? So I'm going to run this through.
Gronkowski?
Not even close. Big Devontae. So I'm going to run this through all the way back to 2016, okay? Devontae and A-Rod stats, okay? 2021, Devontae, 11 tutties. He finished number 5 in that category in wide receivers. A-Rod, he had 37 touchdowns, finished number 4 in that category. In 2020, Devontae, 18, number 1. A-Rod, 48, number 1. In 19, Devontae missed 6 games. A-Rod had 26 touchdowns, tied for 8th. Okay. In 18, Devontae had 13. He was number 2 overall. That was the outlier year. A-Rod only had 25 tutties, finished 13. Okay. In 17, Devontae had 10. He was number 2 in the NFL. A-Rod only played 7 games, so he was kicked out. So he still did it with.
Do you know how many?
Matt Flynn.
How many? Do you not know how many he had with A-Rod that year?
I think it was 10, right? It was like in the first 7 games, he did all his damage.
Oh, so he okay. So he had 0 with Matt Flynn.
Okay, what does that have to do with anything?
Because he doesn't have A-Rod.
He's got Derek Carr.
Oh.
Also, the most accurate quarterback in the past 3 seasons combined. So just throwing that out there. And then in 16, Devontae had 12. He was number 2, and A-Rod had 40, number 1. Okay, so that proves to me that Devontae is the most prolific touchdown receiver in the NFL. He finished top 5.
How many TDs would you guess that Devontae is going to have this year?
Me?
Yeah.
He hasn't had under double digits in the past since 2016.
Are you ranking him at double digits?
Yes. No
Where at
questions
double
about
digits? Low double digits, like 10?
it. Yeah, probably 11. I would say there. I also think Derek Carr is going to get very pass happy to Devontae in the red zone. I really do. And I think, again, this was kind of a run-heavy offense in the red zone, and I think they're going to open that up with the new offense. So I'm looking for a little bit more creativity in the red zone, and they finally have a big body receiver that they can let Derek Carr, again, one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the NFL, throw it up to a huge jump ball receiver. I'm all in. And then even if Devontae's double teamed, triple teamed in the red zone, you got Darren Waller or Hunter Renfrow, which can get open in the red zone. I think it's going to be open season for Derek Carr.
I think there is some weapons. I mean, Hunter Renfrow had 10 last year, right? 9 or 10 TDs.
I believe it was under 10.
Which is gross. Those would definitely come down for Hunter Renfrow. So we have to assume. What?
I think this again. It's in a division.
You're guessing Derek Carr over 33, over his career high, because this is. I mean, you're calling him your breakout player.
Yeah.
So that means you're assuming, okay, Derek Carr has played for 7 years. You're going to have the most TDs you've ever had this season.
100%. I am fully on board with that.
Last year, 35.
Last year
40?
was his best season by far. By far.
2015 was a solid year.
If they give him, which I think they will, if they give him over 600 attempts, which I really do think that they will, I don't think 37 is unrealistic.
Woo,
high 30s.
That is spicy.
High 30s. He finally has a receiver that can get open.
You're saying that towards the ceiling, right? Like that's got to be the peak.
I think 40 is the peak. I don't see him getting over 40, but I think high 30s is definitely realistic.
Okay, buddy. Then you better start ranking Hunter Renfrow with some respect if you're going to say these sort of things.
Sure.
I don't know what you have him ranked, but I know it's not as high as me, and that's
no. I mean, I still think Hunter Renfrow will get maybe not 10. I don't think he'll get 10, but I think he'll get 7. I think it'll be a mix between running that. Go on.
You're projecting him for 36. Break this out for us, and you could give an other category. I'm asking you to break it out.
What out? The touchdown percentage?
Yeah. I
think
just a spitball for me.
I think low end is 10 to 12 on Devontae. I think Devontae can get upwards of 13, 14. I'm fine with that. Darren Waller's going to command a ton of targets in the red zone. I don't see why he can't get 8 to 10. Hunter Renfrow is going to get 8. The running backs are going to get a chunk of them. And then you have all you can always account for 5 to 10 random players getting touchdowns.
I would say ancillary pieces like that.
Yeah.
That you just don't really can't really project who, but it's just going to happen.
A left tackle that's flanked out. You never know what's going to happen.
Foster Moreau get 1 or 2.
Yeah, so I can see 5 to 10 of those. I can see Devontae going off this season, and I can see Derek Carr really trying to assert Devontae as the best receiver in the NFL.
The other thing that I was thinking of as you were talking about it, bringing up the point about how accurate he is, and we think about I don't know if you guys think about this, but when I think about Aaron Rodgers, I think about how accurate he is too. He's just pinpoint. Every time you see him play, he's just pinpoint. And he developed such a rapport with Devontae in the red zone, especially just those back shoulder front corner of the end zone back shoulder plays where he's just putting it on a dime. Only Devontae's boxing a guy out, basically catching it, keeping the feet in. I wonder if I was thinking about it as you're talking about it, I was I wonder if him and Carr, especially because Carr is so accurate too, if they're gonna, develop that same kind of rapport for those kind of throws, those kind of plays, and especially because they played together in college too. So
they have that connection already.
Fresno,
and I think I'm telling you, I really think Derek Carr is gonna make it a statement season for Devontae. I really do.
Just call it, Rob. Say his ceiling is 50 TDs and get it over with. That was for you, Robbie. Sorry, I said Rob.
That's right.
Call it.
Devontae is gonna have
you're just
at
scared
least
to say it.
15 tutties. I'm fine with it.
50. You're saying the ceiling.
Yeah, ceiling's 50, but I'm gonna say 50.
I know that's what's working in your brain right now. Like I know,
I'm all in, man.
I know,
in
but
on
like
Derek
if somebody
Carr.
said Derek Carr is gonna have 50 passing touchdowns, you'd be like, I mean, I
hate that this is where I'm at because I 100% agree with Rob on the rushing quarterbacks with Jalen Hurts, with Trey Lance. I 100% agree with you. But I am sold this season on Derek Carr and Kirk Cousins.
Can we just talk about?
I am too, man.
Like they're in my top 10.
That's what makes it so hard. Like, dude, I was talking about this too. Like, I keep looking up and down, and that's why I have such a big like tier group of like I know people are higher on Burrow than I am, but Burrow to me starts that tier group of like just elite pocket passer kind of guys.
Yeah.
Where you're like you got Burrow, Brady, Russ. After that, Stafford, Cousins, Carr, Rodgers, like all those guys, all of them that can put up monster numbers. I mix Lance in there too as a guy because like if things go right for him, especially with the rushing, like he obviously can jump any of those guys because those guys aren't going to run like he does.
Yeah.
But like that's a huge like tier group of for me, and I'm okay with people like lumping Fields into that too. I just don't think he has quite the same like weapons. I think doesn't have quite the same like offensive scheme environment upside. So I have him like right in his own tier right after.
I've been seeing a lot of Justin Fields love lately.
Yeah, but the thing is it's so hard because like I have Carr and Cousins like 13, 14 in my ranks, but like I said, I have like them in a tier that goes from 7 to basically 15 or 16.
It's
where
crazy.
It's like so many good guys, and I'm like, how do I love like all these guys. I'm like, how do I literally like push them up? And like, so the only thing for me as what I've been doing now basically is trying to ultimately like in when I've been doing best ball underdog drafts, is kind of just when I'm getting certain pieces, that's where I'm kind of leaning towards the stack. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, because I love them all like about the same.
That.
Like it's so that's the only way I really differentiate them like in drafts as of now. But like, it's tough.
I think Stafford kind of gave that blueprint of like, okay, I don't know about you guys, but I genuinely think Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins, they might not have the crazy arm talents that Stafford has, but I don't think it's way too off.
Well, wait, I just wanted to talk about that. Derek Carr's deep ball is just so boring and high.
So what?
It just hits the Jumbotron every time. That's all I just wanted to mention.
Again, he's got Devontae Adams that all he has to do is flick it up, and Devontae will go.
This is not a point of argument. I was just talking about it.
Coming at me, bro. I'm not having it.
His deep ball is just so weird, dude. It's so high. All right, go ahead. Go ahead and spit your truth.
Well, you had me off. Anyway, so Stafford came from the Lions, terrible offense, and came to LA, and then he was a top 5 quarterback, right? Derek Carr is getting a new offense and a huge offensive upgrade in weapons. I don't think it's unrealistic that he can make that jump. Same thing we've talked about Kirk Cousins 100 times, I have at least, that he's getting this new offense that's going to give him the opportunity to throw the ball more in the red zone, to have maybe over 600 attempts. I think Stafford showed that, like, yeah, a pocket passer can still do it. It's just he needs the opportunity, and I think all 3 of those guys will get the opportunity this season. So it's so hard to kind of who's higher than who on this list between Stafford, Kirk, Derek. Like, they're all bunched up right there.
And that's sorry, go ahead, Mario.
I was just gonna say, like, something that you're talking about a blueprint, and like I think another blueprint, the even more relevant one in my mind, is the fact of pairing your QB with a wide receiver they're familiar with. Yeah. We saw Devontae going to play with his QB from like you said, Rob, his QB from college. We saw Hollywood go play with his QB from college. We saw the pair of Tua and Jalen go play with your QB from college. AJ Brown come into Jalen Hurts, not the QB in college, but they're buddies. They're supposed to be like best friends.
Burrow and Chase.
Burrow and Chase. I missed
Yep.
the main one, like a freaking bozo. We're seeing this, and we're clearly seeing teams making this a priority to do, and it makes sense.
I like where you're going. I love where you're at. Do you think it's the team, or do you think it's these players? Because I genuinely think that
Derek Carr probably has pull in this front office.
Yes, but I genuinely think that Burrow had a big say in that Chase pick. And also, there are a ton of rumors saying that Devontae's been trying to get traded to the Raiders for the past like 3 seasons because he wanted to go with Derek. Like it's been a thing in the works.
Yeah. I think he had a house for him ready to go or something like that.
Yeah, it's been like a thing.
Yeah,
so
I think it is. I think it is. I think it is a lot of the players, and it makes sense too, especially if it's the quarterback or like you said, like an elite franchise level wide receiver. But especially if it's an elite franchise quarterback, what do you want to do? Build around that guy. So what do you want to do? Get input from that guy and who he's comfortable with, who he likes throwing to, things like that. So I'm definitely right there with you guys. The other thing I was going to ask too, like, so obviously Robbie's all in on Carr, but we talked about like mentioning like how difficult it is to parse those guys out. Like where do you? I was just wondering, where do you have them like in your ranks?
It's fantastic.
I think you have
so I have
7.
I pulled my thing off. So I have Carr, I believe 6 or 5 right now.
Okay, yeah. So you are definitely.
I'm high. Like
He got some slack on for having him at 7 on our Twitter when we posted that picture.
Was it 7?
Okay,
you pulled that up
at that time, unless you changed it, but I can pull it up real quick.
I think, like I said, like I have that tier from like 7. Right now, mine is like 7 to 15. And Fields is just off that. But like, so like to me, like whenever I tier guys out, like I don't have an issue with them anywhere in that 7. Okay, so to me, like even though that seems high, like I have that tier from 7 to 15. So like, if I could have no issue with anyone moving up to 7. Like I have Burrow, Brady, Russ, Dak, Lance, Stafford, Cousins, Carr. Well, that's the thing, and Burrow's going too high. So
he's going way too high.
Yeah. But,
right, so I'm gonna
that's the thing.
Okay, so I have Derek at 7, like you said. But the difference between him and, let's say, Joe Burrow, who I have, or Matthew Stafford. Okay, so I have Matthew Stafford at 12. The difference between Carr and Stafford is less than 10 points.
Oh, you got 6 guys within 10, huh?
Isn't that insane?
Dude,
wow.
That's what's wild too. For me, like Brady, even though he's not my 7, I think I have Brady 8. But like with the aggregates I was using and kind of, tweaking a little bit, I think it has Brady at 337, and then it goes Dak, Rodgers, Stafford, Russ, Burrow, Lance, Cousins, Carr. So all those guys are within 312 to 337. So like
it's 25.
Like, 25 points between like 8 guys. So it's just like,
yeah.
And to me, it's kind of like pick your poison. All of them are awesome to me, and they're like, I love them all. And that's why I was saying before, just like if you took one of their high end receivers before, make that guy the priority at that point.
I agree with that.
Kind of go from there.
That statement.
I think this same sort of conversation can be applied for wide receiver 6 on.
Yeah.
I actually mean that. Like outside of the top 5 wide receivers, I don't find any of those other wide receivers to be a lock. And I think you can kind of have whoever you expect to do well there. I obviously know that there's going to be tier breaks and stuff, but in the sense of what you're saying, like these 8 quarterbacks are so you can make an argument for any of them to be 7. There's like wide receiver 6 through 22 to 24. You can kind of make that argument as being at 6. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
This year, I feel like this year especially, it's very, very tight between the like you said, Mario, like right once you're out of that higher echelon like tier, once you're out of that number 1, number 2 tier, then it jumble. It gets real tight going down the line.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why, like, this year more than ever, like, I've always kind of been like a prioritized running backs kind of guy at the top of the draft, especially if there's like workhorse guys, because obviously that's like such a big advantage. But like this year more than ever, I only feel like there's like 2 or 3 that are like surefire, like really no questions aside from will they stay healthy. Like, you know, JT, you got Taylor, Eckler, CMC to me are kind of like the 3 guys. Dalvin is kind of like to me right after, but then after that, I have a huge like jumbled from like 5 to 13. That's what I was talking about with ETN. You know, he's kind of in that range. There's so many guys to me where I'm like, he's eyeing it up. But
where do you have Najee?
Yeah, this is both our questions because we're gonna make the argument and we're gonna try to sway you to at least put him in your for sure thing, and we'll tell you.
So
why.
your cook take.
It's gotta be high.
I do have him. Okay, well, I will say I do have him at the top of that jumbled tier. I have him 5, but like I said, I have 5 to 13 as one tier. Like my 5 to 13 goes Najee, Henry, Aaron Jones, Swift, Mixon, Barkley, Fournette.
You say in this,
ETN
Rob?
Connor.
I'm starting as the episode gets later. I'm starting to mix this up. I'm talking to you, Rob Norton. Is you saying this goes against all of what you believe in and what you have told us.
I know.
The Najee should be a lock, not necessarily to take within the top 5, but I think he should lock somewhere there.
So
because he is guaranteed 300 touches. I personally believe he's guaranteed 300.
Okay, so this is where I was gonna go with it too. Okay, so here's no, you didn't cut me off, but you kind of like fed right into it. So what it is like even this aggregate projection I'm using, right? It has him at 297 carries for almost 1,200 rushing yards and 8 touchdowns, and it also has 2 receiving touchdowns. Like I think he had 10 total last year. And I can't really I don't think they're gonna be a great offense. I don't think they're going to be – they could be bad, but I don't think they're going to be, like, terrible bad. But 10 touchdowns is still a good amount to project, you know, for any running back.
No,
so 1,200 rushing yards, and they had him for a little bit more. I bumped his receiving down. This is the part that I'm worried about with him. So but the thing is, it still has him for 50 receptions, which is a good amount. 50 receptions, 340 yards, 2 touchdowns. So you're looking at 1,500 total yards, 350 touches, 10 touchdowns, and he's running back 11. And like, I don't know if like they're just projecting the other guys fairly high. I mean, I know they did have the targets. It does not have the targets actually because I was just
50 receptions. Yeah,
50
60.
receptions.
It's gotta be. It's gotta be like, but you gotta bump that up. Bump those. Numbers up.
I know. Here's the thing. Like I was all in on Najee last year because my biggest worry is that we were talking about Mitch a little bit earlier, right? So Mitch, he's a better fantasy quarterback than real life quarterback in my opinion, and that's because also he was running a little bit. Like he would break contain and run a little bit. He would sling it a little bit. He was a little bit better as a fantasy quarterback than people gave him credit for when he was in Chicago in his best times. And I don't see him checking down as much. Like Ben was the type of guy where he was at the end of his career, he would drop back if he felt any pressure at all, check down, boom, check down. And so Najee got 94 targets. Like there's no way because first off, I don't think they're going to throw as much as Ben. If you look at Ben's passing attempt numbers, it's crazy every year. Like even last year, he was throwing so much because the reason is because he doesn't throw deep very often. He throws really short to Deontay and Najee. So he gets so many attempts on a single drive. You look at his attempts; it's near the top of the league for the last couple of years. I don't think they throw. I think their total pass attempts probably dropped by 100, and also the check down percentage will drop too. So if you just account for those things, like I can't see Najee going from because he had 70 catches.
Well, we had Mitch supported Tariq Cohen getting over 100 targets 2 seasons.
It is true.
That's a little bit of a different player, but he checked the ball down quite a bit in that offense. And
it is true.
We're talking about a guy that is at probably the lowest part of lowest confidence he's probably ever had in his playing career. And all he's going to want to do is get it going on offense. I don't know I don't know what I have him statted out targets wise, because what you're saying is also true, but
I'm around 80.
I find 50 short. 50 seems short for receptions.
I'm around 80 targets.
80 targets. Okay. Yeah, definitely. I think he had 94 last year targets. Like I didn't do the full target like breakdown percentage and things like that, but I was just thinking about it. I was like, okay, 90 some targets. If he drops by, if their total attempts drop by 100, say his even drop down 10, 15, and he drops, 5 to 7 catches, drops some yards. Like he's still gonna have to get the double digit touchdowns or close to, and it's possible because he gets more work than almost anyone.
I know
My worry is just
like a lock is at work for me.
Yeah, like to me, he's like safe, and that's why I do have him right now higher than like a lot of the rest of the guys.
Yeah.
I just don't think like I could see him in like because at least the talk about Dalvin being like more involved in the pass game this year. And he's always been solid in the pass game. He's never been like Najee level, but I do see his like bumping up. I see Najee's coming down. Like I do see him more like 55, 50 to 60 receptions as opposed to like 70 or whatever 75 he had last year. And just dropping from that, I mean that's 10, 15 points right there. And then you take the yardage away. That's, another 10, 15 points probably, or 10 points, I would say. So just doing that, and what was he last year in points per game? He was RB8, I think.
Is this Najee?
Yeah, I think he was RB8 in full PPR points per game last year, if I remember correct. And
he wasn't super efficient with it.
I know, and that's the thing that like worries me because I don't think they're going to be a better offense. Yeah, I don't think they're going to be a better offense in general. Like, and I think they're going to pass less overall. I think his target share comes down a little bit just because of the fact of Ben dumped down at an extreme level. And so like, it just worries me if that efficiency doesn't get better.
It's possible. I know that Juju
but he's still
wasn't
safe
there for half the season, but Juju's, I think he's really safe. I think like his reception floor makes him super safe.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this is a different sort of conversation because we're talking like I'm telling you this should be a locked and loaded draft spot. Like, no, I'm not taking him second overall or third overall. I would probably find a way to, honestly, like I like being 7 or 8 to take Najee, truthfully.
No, that's fair.
I think he's just a guaranteed work. Like if there's not injury, and like you're saying, if this offense is going to be just throwing less, what's the alternative? Running more. And like either way, we saw this Tomlin put Le'Veon 370 rushes in one season. So like, give me all that work, man.
For what it's worth, like I said, like I did draft him in a underdog recently. He did slip the second round. I took Kelsey in the first round, and then I grabbed Kelsey Najee.
Hate him.
And then I actually got ETN in the next round. So, but I was loving that team, and so it's not like I don't hate Najee. It's just I have a little bit more question mark about what the reception floor is. If that total target, like the total pass attempt volume of the offense comes down, combined with a possible drop in the target share, because I think Ben, like I said, I just think Ben was the perfect mix of total target, like total pass volume combined with target share to the running backs. So like that was like, to me, that's like peak. I can't see him going anywhere but down from the targets and the reception. It's just how far down does he go? And like, I'm worried that it might go down to like, and like I said, even with 50, if you drop to 50 receptions, right, that's 24, right? 24 receptions or 24 reception drop. It is a little bit steep, but if you're just doing it, like the reason I put it there was round numbers in terms of that's 24 points. That's an extra, 4 touchdowns that he would need. And he was already at 10. So you're putting him at 14 touchdowns, and he was what, 1,500 yards or something like that already. So like, if you're putting him,
rushing.
Yeah. So if he's like, so now you're at 1,500 yards plus 14 touchdowns just to be RB8 points per game like he was last year. And so like, that's what scares me a little bit if he dips to that point. But like I said, if he does hit the points that you're talking about, like if he stays up at above 60 plus receptions, he's going to be he's going to be a top 8 probably guy in points per game, even if he's innocent. So
yeah, because like I think that's the last part, and then we got to definitely wrap this up. I think that's the last part is like if he just improves his efficiency, like by what? I don't know if saying
little.
15 to 20% is too much,
For
but
sure.
like if he improves that efficiency, it's a whole different kind of stat line that we're thinking here. But
Right.
15 to 20% seems a little high. I would probably say like 7 to 10.
Yeah.
Rob, do you have anything you're working on or anything you want anybody to check out coming up? I guess what I'm saying is plug it all, man. Plug it all before we wrap it up here.
All right. Yeah. So I just started, at the Discord server, as you guys know, for the Baby Bowl.
Is that in your bio?
What's that?
Is the Discord link in your bio?
The Discord isn't in the bio. I got to put it in there. So I'll be getting it in there. But yeah, mainly I was starting it as an easier way for me to just like group message, keep things, because you know how Twitter group chats get buried, like when you're in a massive group chat. Yeah, like it's just like it gets buried so easily. So like in Discord, I can create the channels where it's like major announcements. I can just pin things and keep everything just like so much more organized. And like everyone, and like I know people like hate adding extra like messaging apps and everything else, but it's like, dude, you can curate, you can just curate it so much to what you want, like as much or little notifications as you want. Like I know I'm selling it huge for people who are listening and stuff, but I'm like trying to sell it huge because yeah, I love it too. And like, it just makes things so much easier for me, not having to like do quite as much like legwork with like
out now.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Yeah. But then, and plus like, then I also like kind of want to just grow it into in terms of like, having like all those channels where people can plug work, different kind of things that they got going on, different channels, keep it like super organized and things like that. So I got that going on. I actually just set up the Baby Bowl League last night. I haven't sent out any invites, but those will be going out soon. It's just I was trying to get more and more people into the Discord, so it would be less legwork in terms of like individually trying to like message hundreds of people and things like that. So like that's kind of where I'm at now. But I'll probably start sending out the invites. I think Matt's sending them out tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that. I'll probably send the tweet out tomorrow for the Baby Bowl. So yeah, those are the main two kind of things. I'm just starting to, drop rankings. I'll be doing, writing for Last Word Sports again this fall. Usually putting out 2 to 3 articles per week. So yeah, I'll be doing that stuff. So
awesome, man. I just crafted the tweet and sent it out.
I appreciate you.
Your following is much larger than ours, but I figured if somebody didn't see it and maybe we find some more people that want to join, I love getting people in Discord. I think it's a great app to kind of talk back and forth.
Yeah.
It's organized, it's clean.
Yep.
Rob, thank you so much for coming on. Like I said in the beginning, you're a friend of the podcast. We finally got to meet him in person at the Scott Fish Bowl.
Awesome.
We
took long enough.
I know, right?
We met him back in 2019 via Twitter. And we took a break from fantasy, but we're glad to be chatting with you again and back on here. So thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys are back too. Some of my favorite guys. I appreciate you having me on. Always love talking ball with you guys. So, and it was awesome, like you said, meeting you guys in person. So yeah, man, anytime. Always glad to help. Appreciate you helping me out.
Won't be the last, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's
no doubt.
true.
No doubt.
Yep. But anyways, that's all we have for you guys today. I know we got a little carried away on our last minute Najee talk. It was just Rob and I let it go.
Yeah, we can't.
It's understandable. It's fair.
It's funny because like there's not many things that we agree on, or like the other guy we were hoping to get him on here tonight is Alex, and there's typically all three of us don't typically agree on the same thing. But I saw Rob's eyes and I knew we were attacking here. You held your ground though, and I don't
like
think it. Rob, I don't think we persuaded anything there, but we'll keep trying, Rob.
Mm-hmm.
Robbie. God damn.
Mario.
You'll probably get me. I loved him last year, so
good.
We'll work on it.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Check us out on Twitter at DadBodFS. We're also on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, DadBod Fantasy Squad, and we post this recording up to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio. Ooh, I did those quick. The one that's like Cascade. Do you know what it's called, Rob? Cascade.
Oh man, I don't.
All right, Robbie.
The big ones.
I'm always on Stitcher. Usually, is my main one.
All the big ones.
I think
we are on
there too. For myself, for our special guest, Rob Norton, friend of the podcast, and Robbie Bobby, peace.